well as, let's see, that's about it at this point. I do want to tell you that in the next 30 minutes, we'd like to cover the core of our meeting objectives, which includes an annual report. So you're going to get a few numbers on our success this past year and the last 4 years. And then we're going to talk about a new ABX field trip. How about a field trip experience without the bus? I think all our teachers are telling us today that field trips are a wonderful thing. We know we've got to get that exposure to the arts and sciences, but the decisions being made about when to bring back those buses for field trips and put the kids on the bus and so forth, I think everybody's still thinking through that. We know it's going to happen. We just need to wait. Well, we're not going to wait. We're going to do something, bringing a field trip experience without the bus. And I'm excited to share with you what that's going to be here in just a little bit, and then how we're going to get it done. Over the next 30 minutes, what I'd like you to do is use your chat feature on Zoom. And if you'll just type up, if you got a question and you'd like to ask something, just type it. We'll be tracking it as we go. And let's see, I've got my chat working here. So just jump right in there, type something up. I'd like to adjourn right at 4:30 with all due respect for your time, but our board, we're going to stay on Zoom for a little while. So if you'd like to have a personal conversation with us, we'll stick around for another 15 minutes after the 4:30. Does that all make sense? Are we all good? Okay, so without further ado, let's move forward with today's topics. And 124 applications were approved by ArtsBusXpress Board of Directors this past year, resulting in almost $54,000 in funding. That is the largest amount of funding we have done in 4 years. So that's great news for us. And as a result of that, we were able to fund, and thank you to our donors, 196 buses to the arts and sciences filled with students, compared to last year, 167 buses. That's good news. How many students did that represent? That was over 9,000 students were on those buses to go to the arts and sciences this year. Pretty cool. Last year, 7,700. I think the message is the demand is there and the growth continues. That's all good. Even more importantly than that is, again, we have a number of wonderful arts and science venues in the San Diego County community. This year, 59 of those venues were represented in field trips, compared to last year, 55. So it's been an exciting year, and everything was going just great. And I know on behalf of all the teachers that have applied for funding and the board of directors, we just want to take a minute, and I know our children will say, thank you very much, ArtsBusXpress, from the bottom of their hearts. And I know they want us to be there for them again next year with budget cuts and other things that are going on in the educational marketplace in that arena. Our purpose is even that much more important going forward. This is an annual report, so we want to talk a little bit about the numbers, and this is a chance for me just to share with you over the last 4 years the kind of growth we've seen, from fundraising to managing our expenses to grants requested and grants awarded. And if you follow my cursor on the fundraising side, you can see where we, in 2016, by the way, it was half this number at about 20 grand. So we jumped quickly and raised a significant amount of money through 18 through fiscal year 2019, and it flattened towards the end of this year. And I'm sure we all know why, as our attention was turned to managing to the pandemic. Operationally, we got smart, and that's our gray bar here, in managing our expenses and keeping it flat. This is where really flattening the curve, this is the place that works for us to make sure we're not spending more money than we have to generate the kind of funding for buses that we need for our children and for our teachers. So that was good. You see the bump from 2018 to 2019, and that was a result of, we recognized our sustainability and growth was continuing, and we needed to change our grant management software and our financial software. So that's the bump there in terms of managing for long-term growth. And you can see from our yellow bar, the grants requested continues to be in demand. We continue to see that number rise. And parallel to that, you see our blue bar, which continues to rise as well. If we can be smart about how we manage our nonprofit and the funding we raise, we know we can deliver more funds to our teachers to take their students to the arts and sciences. So that's the result of all that over the last 4 years. Here's the sad news. The sad news is March 13th, the day the governor issued his stay-at-home order, all schools were canceled, and now children are at home, no more field trips. 34 field trips were canceled through June 30th today. That meant 55 buses were canceled, impacting over 2,600 students in San Diego County. What we did right away was we told all those teachers who had an application and approved award for a field trip after March 13th that we would hold that money in reserve for another year through the end of June 2021. So we're excited about that. We've informed them about that, and we hope they can use those funds for a field trip for their class, whatever that might be. Speaking of field trip, we're not quite sure when the buses are going to start rolling, but until that happens, we're delighted to share with you some creative thinking that's been going on here at ArtsBusXpress about what we could do to deliver the field trip experience without the bus. And so with that, I'm going to introduce our Vice President of Program Development, Sharon Strong, who's 35 years at El Camino High School. She's going to take over this whole thing. And she's just a wonderful teacher who we got to know because she took a field trip funded by ArtsBusXpress many years ago. So
yes.
I go to you, Sharon. All yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And I would just like to call your attention to someone who's really special. Patty Smith. Can you wave to everybody right now, Patty? There she is, she's waving. Patty is the founder of ArtsBusXpress, and she realized years ago that the missing link for teachers wanting to take their students on field trips was transportation. So our emphasis has always been on transportation. And thank you, Patty. I found Patty, I'd say it's probably been about 5-6 years ago. And the first thing I just want to share with you is that I have been on a lot of field trips and a lot of travel trips over the years with my students. And I think I could say that the greatest joy that I have is when I see a former student at the grocery store, a chance meeting, or maybe I'm on a field trip and I'm taking a selfie with my students on the bus, and I post it on Facebook, and I will have former students who are liking it within 30 seconds because they remember the shared experience we had when we were on a trip or a field trip together. So I just believe that it is so important to show our students the world outside of our classroom. And at ArtsBusXpress, we are committed to helping our school community continue to do that, continue to generate the excitement that comes with these field trips and this travel. And even though we're grounded, you could say right now, our buses are not being sent out, we're still going to be rolling. So as you could see right now, we're going to be introducing the ABX interactive field trip experience. And it is about the experience, but this time without the bus. Ted, why don't you give me the next slide here? Next slide.
It works. There we go.
There we go. So we are piloting a new type of ABX field trip here, and we plan to make this an interactive workshop where students and workshop leaders can have a discussion. I think it took all of us probably, 3 months of school to finally learn how to use Zoom in a dynamic way, where we learned that there could be discussion in small groups, and that we could have play video, and that we could do round robin reading. So it took some time for us to learn how we could also be dynamic and interactive. Now, these workshops will also be live and real time. This is not going to be a pre-taped session production, but occurring live at that moment. And I'm sure that many of you have seen that there are venues right now that do have videotaped YouTube videos that we can look at. We want this to be a live experience for you and your students. Every workshop is going to have a specific focus, which will be integrated and linked to other content areas such as history and science, math, literature, arts. I'm going to give you a for instance here. Let's say that we're going to have a workshop called Grossology, and it is offered through the Natural History Museum, and it examines the why behind all of the those disgusting bodily functions in the animal and human kingdom. Now maybe we're going to find out, why do owls regurgitate pellets and how are pimples formed? So students learn about some of the grossest things in nature and make these nauseating discoveries that also relate to biology and chemistry. And then also too, teachers may choose their workshop time so that there is a flexible schedule that can be done from any location, whether that be at home or in the classroom. Okay, so with our uncertainty right now as to whether we will be returning a few days a week or full-time or whatever, we know that this flexible venue, flexible schedule will allow for programs of any type like Zoom or Google Meets. So that's what we're working with there. Next slide. Okay, so what type of workshops are we talking about? Here's one workshop offering an example from New Village Arts. It's called Big Willie Shakes, the Ultimate Rapper. Here, how today's hip hop artists take their cues from William Shakespeare. So this workshop would be like this. Shakespeare may have worn tights and big lace collars, but he addressed the same questions about friendship, race, and love as 50 Cent or Tupac. In this interactive workshop, students will learn that today's hip hop artists take their cues from William Shakespeare. Following the same iambic pentameter, meter, rhyme scheme, and figurative language, students will explore how Shakespeare's sonnets influence contemporary music. Students will conclude with their own written or spoken word poetry. Now, we feel it's very important that with these workshops, there's always some type of follow-up activity that the students are left doing. Let's move on to the next slide. Here's another example right here, a workshop offering. This example is from the Birch Aquarium, and it's called The Magical Seahorse, exploring the magic and lore of the seahorse with a marine biologist. And the workshop reads, beginning with the Greek lore of the small fierce seahorses that pulled Poseidon's underwater chariot, this interactive workshop will explore the magic of the seahorse. Through lecture, video, and discussion, students will examine up close these mystical creatures with heads of a horse and tails of a fish. The seahorse habitat, life cycle, and predators, in addition to facts about other sea life that inhabit the coral reefs, will be discussed. After a question and answer period, students will contribute to a class art project or an underwater mural. All right, next slide. So you can see that these types of workshops are going to have a lot of benefits. There we go. We have some program benefits to share with you. First of all, we're still going to be keeping the field trip experience alive by providing learning opportunities that make connection with our world around us. And that's the most important thing that we can do. If we cannot take them out into the world, we'll bring the world to them right now. We are going to shine a light on San Diego's finest arts and science venues that can also use our support right now. A lot of them are just opening up, like the Natural History Museum is just opening up this next week. And we aim to plant a seed of curiosity so that students want to learn more about that subject or venue. Also, we will support the venue's program objectives as they learn from the foremost experts in that field. So each of these venues will be choosing their workshop leaders who can lead discussions, they can give a demonstration, they can share video and examples, and they can answer student questions. And of course, We want to inspire students so that they can't wait to return with their family and friends and show them what they have learned. And in this way, we are still enriching students one field trip at a time. Okay, so in order to do this, ArtsBusXpress, we will commit to, first of all, we're going to select venues for a pilot program. And so we are also eager to hear what venues, teachers you would want to complement your curriculum. I mean, I myself am interested in a workshop on social justice, which is a big theme right now. So I would like to get a local theater group to offer a workshop dealing with this important subject. We're also going to curate a selection of workshops from these venues. One venue, such as the La Jolla Playhouse, has already offered 4 different workshop ideas for us to offer. Also, we're going to inform and promote. There's going to be e-blasts, e-letters coming out. We're going to encourage teachers and our sponsors to go to our ABX website, where we have listed places to go. And we have numerous venues from A to Z that people can look at in the San Diego County area. But we are also going to catalog all of these workshops, these venues and the workshops that they're offering. And teachers can go through and read and study and pick one that fits nicely into their curriculum. Then we are also going to create an online application for our teachers. And this is what's awesome here. We're going to be able to register your classes. And let's say that you have 3 to 4 freshman English classes. You're going to register all 3 of those classes. It isn't like they're all going to, over 120 kids or whatever it is, are going to sit into one session. No, you are going to register each of those classrooms for their own different workshop. You're also going to be able to apply for funding. So instead of right now ArtsBusXpress paying for transportation to the venues, we are going to bring the venue to you, and we are going to pay a stipend to the venue for offering the workshop to you. And then finally, we are going to be able to track our success. So we're going to be able to see how things are working. We're going to be able to make necessary adjustments. And we're also going to be able to tell our sponsors how this is working. So we're very excited about this, and we are excited to hear from you about how we can help you and support you in the fall. We want this up and running for the fall. So we want to bring excitement back into the classroom along with our virtual teaching. So ladies and gentlemen, I now want to introduce to you my colleague, Michelle Gilmore, who is the Director of Development for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And she's a certified fundraising executive who has co-authored the book, Eventology, the Science Behind Nonprofit Fundraising. Michelle is leading our quest to bring more opportunity to San Diego teachers. Take it away, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and welcome everyone. We're so pleased that you joined us this afternoon. We've been putting this together, and it's been just a joyous exercise because, as you can see, we have a lot of heart and soul on our board, and we're an all volunteer board. It's a fully volunteer run organization, and we're dedicated to having individual field trips for students, even if we can't put them on the bus right now. As you know from Sharon's wonderful presentation, we are so dedicated to making sure that we don't skip a beat. You know, just the fact that we can't put them on the bus, we still want to be able to provide something for them that has an interactive component. You know, I was a teacher years ago, and my favorite thing was field trips, even as a teacher. So I know how important they are, and I think we all have a really large sense of something that we want to continue. So part of doing that is to be able to fund these wonderful interactive field trip experiences. And as we look to 2021, we've set a goal to raise $108,000, because what we want to do is try to keep the amount of students that we've impacted from 2019, keep that number going. So when we look at $300 on average per class, and that would cover the stipend and some of the processing fee for our ArtsBusXpress functionality. We have a platform called Foundant that is the platform that many of you are familiar with, where you have been applying for a bus, for instance, for your field trips. Well, we're going to use that same system to register classes of size 25 to 30 students at a time, likely no more than that, for these experiences. So we're really excited about that idea, and here's how we're going to do it. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm. It's coming.
No worries. So in order to get these kiddos some field trips delivered to their front door of the classrooms and or their homes in some cases, we're going to kick off a fundraising campaign called IFTX Fundraising, Interactive Field Trip Experience, on August 1st. And what that will be is a combination of fundraising strategies that'll include some one-on-one meetings with some of our major donors. We're going to identify sponsorship opportunities. And to be honest, I think this is an area that we're really going to employ well, because we have, as an organization, really relied on foundations and personal gifts from most of our constituents in order to fund the buses. And we've done an excellent job. There's a lot of passion around it. We have a great following. We have wonderful donors who, they come back year over year. But to be honest, if we're going to be able to raise enough money in a short amount of time to get these field trips funded, we're really going to look for sponsorship opportunities with some of our business partners and some of the people that support like foundations. So if you happen to know someone who is a sponsor or a grantor that you're familiar with, we'd love your ideas. We're happy to do the legwork. We'll reach out. I'll make phone calls. Patty will go visit with them, and Ted will have coffee with them. But we're always looking for great ideas for sponsorship opportunities. Our board is 100% committed to participate and to get these amazing interactive field trips on board. And when we look at how we're going to do it, is we're going to use social media, email marketing. We'll invite some more people to Zoom meetings like this, because we're in a virtual world. So we're going to tap into that virtual pulse, and we're going to have you wonderful teachers help us spread the word, because as you know, it's all about getting the word out there that these programs need funding and how can we help. Next slide, please. Looking beyond 2020, because as all of us are looking right now between July 1st and the end of the year, that is coming up quickly. And so we've set some long-term strategic goals that include hiring a staff, an admin person, possibly a full-time or a part-time fundraiser. Because as we know, it's going to take some extra effort to raise the kind of funds that are going to get those buses rolling. We're going to maintain focus on long-term strategy for sustainability. And the idea is in 3 years to have a $250,000 campaign fundraise so that we can, as soon as the buses are ready, we'll put them on the roads. Next slide, please. So we're going to open it up to the Q&A for the people that are here. And what I'd love to do, Ted, is to make sure if there's someone who hasn't yet, if you have a question and you want to ask us anything about the presentation, about ArtsBusXpress, if you could please type your question in the chat. We're going to have Ted moderate the questions. And then if you do want to speak and be unmuted, then just go ahead and click your box. I think you should be able to raise your hand. So, or you can even put a note in the chat and say, I would like to speak. That's fair too.
That sounds good. Thanks, Michelle. And thank you, Sharon. Well done. So here's some quick questions here. First of all, thank you just for doing this. So we appreciate hearing the thank you. And I know our sponsors and donors really appreciate that. Suggested venues. Well, and the good news is if you went to our places to go on our website, you'll see these there.
Whoops.
Ted, you froze up a little, if you can hear me.
There now, because we can hear you.
Okay, there you go. So Ted, why don't you repeat what you said about the venues, because you froze just for a second there.
Yeah, so Mr. Duran was asking, are we going to consider the venue San Diego Museum of Art, MOPA, and Children's Museum? And yes, they are part of our places to go on our website. We haven't approached them yet for a pilot program, but that's certainly under consideration. There's Miss Judd has asked about the zoo. We love the zoo. We love funding trips to the zoo. And there's nothing more, if it isn't Jack Hanna walking around showing you all about animals on TV, wouldn't it be nice to have a trainer right from San Diego Zoo do a workshop on the day in the life of a trainer at San Diego Zoo? There's all ideas there. So we look forward to bringing them into the fold. That certainly makes a lot of sense. It looks like Ms. Judd wants to talk about zebras. Because they lend themselves so well to the format. There's just so many wonderful. I want to go to Safari Park, by the way. So you may see me there doing a live shot. How's that? Mr. Waits, are we limited to local venues? Yes, our mission in life has been to support San Diego County arts and science venues. And there's so many of them. And our funding stays right here in San Diego County. It covers a lot of ground. We get outside the county, we have experienced some unique situations, and the funding just goes way out of sight to send 20 students on a bus to LA, whether it's an art museum, a venue of some sort in the Los Angeles area. It just gets a bit expensive. So we've stayed away from that, but ask us again sometime. Mr. Duran asked, there's some new venues, the new Mingai Sculpture Garden with a docent. That's on our hot list. Our founder, Patty, is always talking about the Mingai Garden at Balboa Park. So yes, that we may or we may not, it's not currently on our pilot program list, but that's certainly one in our regular areas to focus on. So our pilot programs, as Sharon had mentioned, are in fact based in San Diego venues. So that's what we're trying to do. There are three, for ArtsBusXpress, there are three key components. It's the teachers, it's our donor community, can't do anything without those two, and our venues, our representatives from our venues. So we've kind of focused on those three areas and want to bring them all together. So that's part of our mission here at ArtsBusXpress. Question from Miss Libby. Can you speak to the numbers 25 to 30 students? I don't know my numbers till we start. From that perspective.
Can I address that, Ted?
Yeah, please do, Sharon.
The idea behind our numbers is that we want to keep it a personal, interactive experience. And the idea is it isn't limited to 25 to 30. At the high school level, you're right. We have 35 to 40 in our classes, and that's fine. That's fine. What we want to get across is that this will not be an experience where we're on a field trip, I might be taking 4 of my English classes to the theater at the same time. But the way that this would be done, the workshops, is that I would have 4 different workshops for each of those classes. So ArtsBusXpress is prepared to finance separate workshops so that you guys can have a more intimate experience with a group of kids and that workshop leader. That's what we're aiming for, whatever the size of your class is. And I did see too, there's another one that deals with, would students be doing this from home? They could. Would we have to have permission forms? I hadn't thought about that. If we're not, leaving the classroom or the home, I'm not sure that the permission form, unless, parents for some reason didn't want their children learning about a particular subject, I am not sure that a permission form would be necessary. But those are great questions. We could look into that.
We'll dig into that one. Thank you, Sharon. Miss Libby talks about a backstage tour of San Diego Theater. I'm into that. I'm a handyman on the side. I love all the set preparation, the build outs, all of that kind of stuff. So getting a behind the scenes tour or something like that is pretty awesome. Is that doable, right, Sharon?
Yes, I'm writing these ideas down.
Miss Balin, thank you for all you do. Thank you. I've been able to go on several field trips the past couple of years because of your funding. My school would have been able to have an entire grade level to the Museum of Man because of support from ArtsBusXpress. That's a great story. Thank you. We're humbled. Love to do a workshop on Museum of Man in Center for Archaeology, Indigenous Peoples, and local San Diego, California history. So we're writing all these down. I know Sharon will take those to heart as she looks at pilot programs and things we want to prioritize. I know there's probably, our last count was there's 75 different arts and science venues around the county. And we're trying to talk to all of them, but we know we can only get to probably 10 by September to really launch these programs. So we'll be communicating with you those top 10 so you know what's available for the first part of the new school year. Miss Libby, good questions. Any connections to Zynga? Our students are fired up about video game development. Little science, little math, little graphics, a lot of that kind of stuff. Hadn't thought about it. We'll think that one through. Miss Judd asked, like the behind the scenes idea. And this could take place with a fire department, police department, mayor's office. So here's the message we've always told our teachers. If we can justify it as part of our mission, which is arts and sciences, and that covers a lot of ground. Because in the world of business or in the world of delivering services, there's an awful lot of art in terms of graphics and packaging and presentation, and a lot of science, whether it's the use of engines and fire pressure and power or SDG&E energy systems. And we've done field trips to SDG&E Innovation Center. So there's some of those kinds of things we'd like to take a look at. So that's a possibility. My district doesn't use Zoom due to hacks. A permission form may need to address that. Interesting.
Do they use Google Meets? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so we're not going to restrict our platform, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's right. So we could have various platforms that fit the venue. It's really up to the venue and the speaker from the venue where they're comfortable because they're delivering the presentation. And we want to stay agnostic and kind of general in that area. Google Meets, yes, that looks good. Somebody just responded. It will be venue driven. That's certainly it. Yes, this is all venue driven, by the way. Oh, Microsoft Teams, that's another one besides Zoom and others. That's pretty much the laundry list of comments on the chat box. And feel free to stick around and add any to that. We have your phone numbers and email addresses. You have ours. And if you look at the screen one more time, we'd love to think that we're on the right track. Everybody we've talked to, and just so you all know, I've talked to a half a dozen of our major sponsors yesterday and today. And while they couldn't participate today, they are on board and excited to learn where we're headed in this direction because they recognize that buses full of children aren't going to happen in the real near future. We'll just have to wait for those opportunities down the road. So this is going to be something to look forward to. Hey, I've seen a lot of thank yous. I can't thank my board and Sharon and Michelle for helping us put together this 30-minute session. We hope you found it worthwhile and informative. We're going to hang around and you can unclick your audio and we'll chat for a little bit if you'd like, but feel free to head off to dinner or happy hour or wherever you're headed. Thank you so much for being out there with our children and students. This has not been easy for you, I'm sure. And we just hope we can be there for you when school reopens. So thanks a lot. Good night. We'll be in touch.